Students, the final video I wanted to show you today on a table saw was the use of a miter gauge to create crosscuts. So on a table saw, you're going to have multiple channels usually, one on each side of the blade, and the channel is specifically for the miter gauge. So in this case, today we're going to use the miter gauge to make a crosscut on material. So the first couple of videos on the table saw, we've been ripping material, which means you're cutting with the grain of a board. But cross-cutting, obviously, is going to be cross-grain operations. When we're cutting anything cross-grain on a table saw, you cannot use the rip fence. Plywood, that's a different story because it's multi-layered. We'll get into that another day. But anyway, with hardwood material or softwood material, cross-cuts on a table saw should be done with the miter gauge and should never be done with the rip fence. So what I'm going to do here is just make a cut across the grain, and I'm going to have a good handhold on the miter gauge and the material while cutting. So I know the blade is set at an appropriate height. I'm going to move the camera a little bit so we can get a better angle at this. So I need to make sure that I have a really good hold on the miter gauge, and the material I'm holding tight against the miter gauge, and then I get the table saw blade going, and then I'll make my cut. So here goes. You would, in real life, you would have a mark, a designated line that you wanted to cut. You would visually line that up with the blade, and then turn the table saw blade on and make the cut. For now, I'm just going to make sure I have a good grip and a good hold, and then I'm going to cut about an inch of material off of this. So here goes. Nice feature about this table saw is I was able to cut, and because of an appropriate position, I was able to actually bump my switch with my left leg. So that's a nice feature on this table saw I've always liked, is you can shut that machine off without the use of hands, because you could see in that video I was a little bit busy. And we would never take that scrap material out until that blade has stopped. So that's a quick video on cutting a crosscut using a miter gauge. This is not a very common operation in our lab. I'll point the video over to the tool that's going to use basically create most of our crosscuts, and that would be the chop saw. And I'll head over there in a little while to create a few more videos.